A long time ago, the gods organized a divine race to decide which animals would assist them. Each animal reached the finish line in its own way and claimed a place. 12 animals became divine spirits who stood beside the gods, tasked with watching over the world. But one creature, who had also aspired to become a spirit, failed to reach the finish line due to an unfair reason. Thousands of years later, that same animal decided to correct the injustice by restarting the divine race. The story shifts to a soccer field near a school, where the main character, the timid and nerdy Li Wuju, sits beneath a wall, completely absorbed in his book. The noise from the schoolyard distracts him, reminding him why he hates school. With his weak body and shy personality, fitting in feels impossible. Having close friends, or even imagining romance, seems like something that only happens in other worlds. He even wonders why people can't just be as harmless as animals. While flipping through his book, he fails to notice a pair of delicate feet dangling above his head. Too engrossed in reading, he misses the chance to look up. From the sunlight's shadow, a strange voice says she's found him, calling it fate. Wuju barely catches a glimpse of the feet before confusion sets in. Moments later, a girl suddenly drops down in front of him, completely naked. Shocked, Wuju panics and tries to cover her with his tiny book. I already hate him for this. The mysterious girl, with cat ears and striking golden eyes, smirks and approaches him as he curls up in the corner, on the verge of panic. She studies him as if he were food and mutters that something about him feels strange. Wuju convinces himself it must be a dream and even wonders if she's just a cosplayer. Before he can process anything, the doors behind him burst open, sending him flying. His bully, Du Heiji, storms in, saying she finally found him. Bruised and startled, Wuju can barely respond. When he tries to explain that a strange girl had just been there, Heiji looks around in confusion. No one else is present. Wuju insists that he really saw someone, but Heiji doesn't believe him. She grabs his cheeks and scolds him for lying, saying liars need to be punished. Despite his protest, she drags him back to class. And yes, there's another full feet shot. Lord have mercy. Heiji sits on her chair, waving her foot near his face as everyone laughs. Wuju just sits there, enduring the bullying. In my opinion, God only gives a few chances in life. Heiji mocks his expression, claiming this is more of a reward than a punishment. Disgusted, Wuju blurts out that it actually smells kind of nice. She bursts out laughing, calling it hilarious until everyone around her nearly loses it. Still teasing him, she removes her sock and dangles it over his head, saying that if he likes the smell so much, he can have it. The bystanders, watching the scene, assume Wuju is some sort of creep enjoying it. If you're a foot lover, comment down below. I just need to know. Heiji keeps provoking him. Wuju takes the bullying quietly, as usual. Then one of her friends mentions Beck Raven, jokingly calling her Wuju's wife. Another asks if they actually live together. The sudden question shocks Wuju, and he awkwardly tries to clarify that they don't. She just lives downstairs. Heiji keeps pushing, pretending to be impressed, and asking if he really lives with Raven. Embarrassed, Wuju stammers while the scene cuts to Raven sitting calmly in her chair, trying to ignore the bullies who are picking on Wuju. Heiji even jumps to conclusions and hints that the two might already be romantically involved. Moments later, the Raven, unable to listen to it any longer, stood up and decided to approach them, and asks what Heiji's problem is. Heiji nervously says it was only a joke, but Raven tells her to mind her own business since she isn't standing on him. She advises Heiji to stop picking on weaker people, saying that such behavior accomplishes nothing and only makes her look pathetic. Stunned, Heiji can only stare as Raven takes Wuju by the hand and drags him out of the room, clearly disappointed in him. The rest of the class is left speechless. Later, in the storage room, Wuju tries to thank Raven, but she tells him not to get the wrong idea. She only intervened because she didn't want to look bad because of him. Wuju apologizes anyway. Raven questions why he's so timid for a guy. While he silently compares himself to her, she's confident and popular, everything he's not. She tells him to stop letting people walk all over him. A mischievous black cat appears on the window frame. Just before chaos breaks out, Raven warns that if things keep going this way, school life will only get harder for her. The cat suddenly leaps in her face. Wooju tries to help, but the cat fights like a Mike Tyson in his last round. Raven falls right onto him, knocking the wind out of his lungs. Confused, she asks if that was really a cat. Wooju freezes, realizing how close she is, and notices the necklace around her neck, the same one he gave her when they were children. In a flashback, young Wooju had given Raven that necklace, saying his mother gave it to him. When Raven asked if he was sure, he said it was fine because she was just as precious as his mom. Back in the present, Raven asks what he's thinking. Both realize how close they are and blush awkwardly. Suddenly, the same cat darts back into the room, snatches her necklace, and grins at them from the window frame. Raven panics, yelling for the cat to return the necklace. Wooju, still pinned beneath her, can barely move. When they finally untangle, she tells him the cat took it and looks devastated, asking what she should do. Unable to stand her sad expression, Wooju decides to chase after the thief. He races through the school, shouting for the cat to stop, but the cat just gives him a side eye and leaves it behind. Wooju starts yelling at the person in front of them, and that person turns out to be none other than Heiji, that the same girl that tried to give him her sock earlier. The cat zips between her legs, and Wooju rushes past, quickly apologizing. Furious, Heiji yells at him, claiming they're even, then takes off her slipper and throws it. Her aim is terrible. The slipper misses Wooju, hits the cat instead, and sends it flying out the window. Horrified, she realizes what she's done as Wooju dives out after the cat without hesitation. Outside, Raven happens to be walking through the yard and is stunned to see Wooju literally falling from a window. As he plummets, Wooju thinks this might be the end and regrets all the things he hasn't done. Right before he hits the ground, the cat speaks, calling him an idiot and warning that while a cat would survive, he'd definitely die. Wooju freaks out at the talking cat. The cat smirks, saying it had planned to choose more carefully, but since he jumped after a cat, he'll have to do. It begins chanting a spell in the name of Magmatam, and the stolen necklace glows green. Wooju has no idea what's happening. The cat recites words about the throne of the heavens and the race to decide the seat beside it, then declares that the 12 Zodiac tournament will begin again, with a judge to oversee it. Wooju's thoughts spin. 12 Zodiac tournament? Judge? What is happening? The cat declares that it chooses him as the judge. A bright green light floods the school, and a glowing symbol appears beneath Wooju. The cat commands him to accept. Wooju hesitates, then finally shouts that he'll be the judge. The cat says, "Good. Now, the rules." But the scene abruptly cuts to a dark, mysterious space. A man stands before Wooju and asks what he truly desires. Wooju looks at him like he's seeing a LeBron James himself. He begins to say he wants something that benefits everyone, but the thought cuts off. He opens his eyes to a voice asking if he's awake. The school nurse, a beautiful woman, gently checks on him, asking if he feels better. When he sits up too fast, their heads bump, but she calmly continues examining him. She explains that she heard he fell from the 4th floor. Wooju admits he can't remember much. Surprised that he isn't hurt, she says the memory loss might be due to shock and advises him to visit a hospital just in case. He thanks her and leaves, still dazed. Outside, a girl quietly watches him leave. When he returns home, he admits his head feels fuzzy, locks the door, and decides to wash up and rest, only to find the same cat lounging on his bed. Furious, he calls it the thief from earlier. The cat retorts that the necklace was originally its own. Wooju stares in disbelief, realizing he's talking to a cat, and mutters that the nurse was right. He's definitely having after effects. The cat glares at him, asking why he's pretending not to know what's going on. It says he's the judge now and warns not to make it regret choosing him. Wooju, still clueless, asks what being a judge even means. The cat hisses, demanding to know if he'll keep pretending, then lunges at him, insisting it'll make him remember. While they struggle, Raven approaches the apartment, wondering if Wooju made it back safely. She hears a scream, bursts through the door and freezes. Inside, Wu-Ju stands with a cat girl, nearly naked. Raven looks at Wu-Ju, then at the cat girl, and lets out an ear-piercing scream. Wu-Ju found himself in serious trouble. The cat girl stared at him, saying it seemed he finally remembered everything. Raven screamed at the top of her lungs, calling for her mom while running to find her, yelling that there was a naked woman in Wu-Ju's room. Wu-Ju froze in place like a moai statue. The cat girl sighed in relief, saying she could finally breathe again. Wu-Ju looked at her, still stunned, and asked who she really was. She answered casually that she was the cat. He'd seen her that morning, and they'd fallen together. Then, looking at him with shining eyes, she said they should get along from now on and told him to call her Nina. Wu-Ju repeated her name, still confused, wondering what exactly she meant. One thought crossed his mind. First, she really needed to put something on. Raven burst into the room again, screaming so loudly that Wu-Ju nearly had a heart attack. She kept shouting that Wu-Ju had brought a naked woman into his room, pointing at him while he crouched in the corner like a lost Victorian child. Her mother appeared, calmly asking if Raven was still half asleep and if she knew what time it was. Raven froze mid-sentence. Wu-Ju gave her mother a small, awkward hello, and she greeted him politely, saying it had been a long time. While Raven frantically looked around for the mystery woman, Nina quietly transformed back into a cat and hid behind Wu-Ju. Robin's mother decided her daughter was overreacting and told Wu-Ju she was heading downstairs. She added that if he wanted dinner with them, he could come down later. Wu-Ju nodded gratefully and thanked her. She left, and Raven ran after her, still protesting. The moment they were gone, Nina reappeared behind Wu-Ju, switching back to human form with a soft meow, placing her hands on his shoulders and nearly giving him a heart attack. Raven suddenly returned again, muttering to herself that something didn't add up. Wu-Ju quickly tried to cover Nina, and she turned back into a cat just in time. Then, as if to mess with him, she briefly switched into human form again for a split second while Raven was still scanning the room. Finally, Raven gave up and left. When they were alone again, Wu-Ju begged Nina to stay in cat form, at least for now. He made her a small bed out of pillows and told her to sit there quietly. The cat curled up comfortably, and Wu-Ju exhaled in relief. Completely drained, he collapsed onto his bed, muttering that he had no idea what was happening. The cat remarked that something must have gone wrong when they fell. Well, damn. Wu-Ju lay back, remembering how she mentioned the 12 Zodiac tournament. He asked if it was the same old folktale about animals. The cat replied that it was indeed ancient, but yes, the same contest was happening again, 3,000 years later. Wu-Ju, barely awake, managed to mumble something about 3,000 years. Nina confirmed it, adding that she hadn't had a choice today. She had to pick him, so she was counting on him, judge. Wu-Ju, half asleep, muttered that none of it made sense. A flashback appeared. A mysterious man sat under a tree, surrounded by animal spirits, saying it was time for him to leave. Nina looked shocked. The man asked if any of them wished to follow him. Nina reached for his clothes with her paw, trying to stop him. He told her gently that not everyone could sit by his side, then walked into a white fog, saying there were only 12 seats, and those seats would be decided by a contest. Nina sat in silence, speechless. Back in the present, Wu-Ju woke with a start. He looked over to the pillow bed where the cat had been and wondered if she was gone, and if everything had just been a dream. At least, he thought. He wasn't late for school. Then he remembered Heiji and the sock incident and immediately decided he didn't want to go. Still, he dragged himself out of bed, changed into clean clothes, and buttoned up his shirt. Without knowing, Nina was perched on the window frame, watching him. Once he left for school, she jumped down and slipped into Robin's room through her open window. Opening the closet, she began borrowing some of Robin's clothes. At school, Wu-Ju slumped over his desk, exhausted but relieved that Heiji was absent, meaning no bullying for the day. He half listened to his classmates chatting nearby. They mentioned that Raven hadn't come to school either and speculated that she might have gotten in trouble because of what happened yesterday. The word struck Wu-Ju like lightning. His mind flashed back to the previous day, and guilt hit him hard. His classmates continued, saying they felt bad for her since she got tied up with such a loser. Wu-ju couldn't take it. He stormed out of class to look for her, telling himself there was no way she was in trouble because of him. He rushed to her house and asked her mother if Raven was home. Her mother said Raven had already gone to school and wondered why they hadn't left together. Panicked, he ran off again, searching every corner, thinking how she wasn't answering texts or calls and that something felt wrong. Out of breath, he leaned against a wall, whispering that she was nowhere to be found. Without realizing, Nina was walking up the street toward him, eating a popsicle like it was just another day. When he finally noticed her, he blurted out that she was the cat from yesterday and demanded to know what was going on. She said she had already explained it yesterday. Wu-ju complained that she was walking around like that, and someone could yell that she was a cat. She asked what the problem was, saying she was wearing a hat. He told her she was an idiot. Her tail was still sticking out. Shaking it off, he said they needed to find Raven fast. Nina tossed her popsicle stick aside and asked if the girl from yesterday had already started. Wu-ju grabbed her shoulders in panic, asking what she meant. Nina gave a sharp little grin and said it was the descent of the 12 Zodiacs. Thunder cracked behind him. He turned in shock. Nina grabbed his hand, telling him there was no time. They had to move. While running, she explained that the ritual had already begun. 12 gods were descending into the human world to hold the contest, and one of them had already chosen that girl. Wu-ju, horrified, asked if she meant Raven and why it had to be her. Nina replied that it was a long story. Wu-ju asked what would happen now. With a serious look, Nina said the first step was for him, the judge, to make the 12 gods officially into the game. Wu-ju, completely overwhelmed, asked what that even meant and what would happen if he couldn't. Nina's eyes grew sharp as she said that if he failed, the god possessing Raven would devour her completely. Wu-ju froze. Nina smiled faintly, saying they had to hurry if they wanted to save her. They arrived at a storage room and went inside. Wu-ju shouted for Raven. He spotted her curled up in a corner, small and terrified, like a child waiting for father who went to buy milk. When he tried to approach, she screamed for him not to come closer. Confused, he asked what was wrong, but she shouted again, then bolted out of the room. Wu-ju was stunned. He had never seen her run so fast. Nina yelled that they had to catch her now, before she was fully possessed. They chased her until she stopped in front of a tall fence. Wu-ju told her that they apparently needed to perform something called the 12 Zodiac Tournament, and if she joined, her body would return to normal. He and Nina exchanged a glance, counted to 3, and leapt forward to grab her. But Raven suddenly soared into the air, moving with impossible grace. Nina's eyes widened as she realized their first opponent had appeared, the fourth of the 12, the rabbit. Wu-ju could only stare in disbelief, wondering what on earth was happening. Raven began to fall. Wu-ju screamed her name as she plummeted from the building. He was devastated. Nina, frustrated, muttered that it was troublesome. Of all things, the girl had to be possessed by the rabbit. Wu-ju trembled, insisting that Raven had just fallen from the building. Nina smirked and said there was no time for crying or hesitation. Wu-ju shouted that someone had literally just fallen right in front of them. But Nina grabbed his hand, pulled him toward the edge, and said they'd lose her if they hesitated. Then she jumped off the building. Wu-ju didn't even have time to think before following her. As they fell from the building, Nina told Wu-ju not to be nervous. Their held hands began to glow, leaving Wu-ju confused and completely lost about what was happening. Then, without taking any damage, they landed safely on the ground. Nina gave him a thumbs up and asked how that was, proudly saying she had shared her power with him. Cats, she explained, always land on their feet. Wu-ju lay on the ground, devastated and fighting the urge to throw up. When he finally regained his strength, he heard a loud scream from behind. He turned, and in the air, he saw Raven herself flying through the sky. She landed in a questionable pose, leaving Wu-ju completely speechless. Nina shouted that they needed to catch her before the possession was complete. Watching Raven with a sharp, focused gaze, Nina said it had been a while since she'd had to do something like this. She started stretching, preparing for the chase, then suddenly dashed forward with explosive speed toward Raven. but Raven flipped effortlessly, dodging her attack, leaving Nina stunned. Robin's eyes began to glow. Nina launched another powerful move, but Raven was still impossible to catch. She leapt away, springing off the ground and leaving Nina frustrated. Then, suddenly, Raven began to beg for help. One of her eyes was crying while the other glowed with spiritual power. She pleaded for someone to stop her. Wuju stood there, frozen, wondering if she was actually crying. He yelled her name, asking why she was running away and telling her that if she wanted to return to normal, she had to join the tournament. Nina, panting heavily, cursed under her breath, saying the possession was progressing faster than she expected and that the terrain favored the rabbit. Wuju, confused, asked what she meant. Nina explained that the rabbit's large ears and incredible jumping ability were its natural strengths, as expected from a herbivore. She added that Raven was moving beautifully, hopping with ease, but if things continued, she'd be fully possessed. Wuju analyzed the situation, thinking about what Nina said. If animal instincts were involved, then Nina's ability to land safely earlier had also come from those instincts. He clenched his fist, telling Nina to listen to him for a moment, as if he'd come up with a plan. Raven kept running, jumping like an Olympic champion, while Nina tried to catch her. She even launched another attack in Robin's direction, but Raven dodged it again. Her glowing eyes showed that she was almost completely possessed. Nina chased her into what looked like a strategic spot, exactly where Wuju had intended. She smiled faintly, realizing his plan works. Wuju sprinted up the stairs toward the rooftop, though he looked half dead from exhaustion. He thought about Robin's sad face and gathered his last bit of strength, whispering for her to wait just a little longer. Once he reached the top, he spotted Raven and, amazed, murmured, "You did it, Nina." Their plan had worked. He started running toward Raven, explaining that the plan was for him to reach the rooftop first and be there to catch her when she fell. He spread his arms wide, bracing himself. Just as planned, Raven dropped straight into his arms. He held her tightly. Raven, nearly fully possessed, started screaming. Nina climbed up the metal fence to the top of the roof and yelled that Raven couldn't control herself anymore. Wuju had to force her to join. She told him not to let go. Wuju held Raven as tightly as he could, shouting that there was no way he'd release her. She had always reached out to him first. This time, he wouldn't back away. He screamed, promising her he wouldn't let go. Raven, consumed by the spirit, didn't understand anything. Nina shouted for him to say it, to declare that the rabbit joins the tournament. Wuju flashed back to when Raven cried before. He remembered wiping away her tears, telling her not to cry, that he would protect her. Back in the present, he shouted with all his strength that the rabbit joins the tournament. A beam of pink lightning appeared in the sky and struck down toward them. Robin's body calmed, the energy settling. Wuju still held her tightly, confused about whether it had worked. Nina ran toward them, yelling that it was done. Suddenly, from Robin's head, the rabbit's spirit began to emerge. Wuju could only stare in disbelief. Nina looked up and said that the others had arrived too, that she had been waiting so long for this moment. Wuju, still dazed, asked who she meant by others. As he turned, beams of light began shooting down from the sky, filling the entire city behind them. Nina placed her hand on his shoulder and said, "The other Zodiac gods, of course." Later, back at Wuju's place, Raven finally woke up. Wuju leaned over her, asking if she was okay and if she was finally back to normal. Raven shoved her hands into his face, shouting in panic, demanding why he was there. Wuju, confused, replied that it was his room. Then Raven looked around and realized what was going on. She pointed at Nina, yelling that she was that naked woman from before and that she was wearing her clothes. The rabbit's spirit suddenly spoke, his glowing form visible above them. He scolded Raven, saying she had almost died, yet was still yapping like nothing had happened. Raven looked up, startled, seeing the shining spirit floating in the clouds. She asked what was happening. Was she dreaming? Nina calmly explained that it wasn't a dream and that Raven probably knew that better than anyone. Raven hesitated, saying that if it wasn't a dream, then the strange sensation she felt being connected with the rabbit was real. Nina nodded, telling her that she was now officially a participant in the 12 Zodiac tournament. Raven asked what exactly that meant. Wuju interrupted, asking Nina to please explain it properly. He wanted to understand too. Nina started to explain, but the rabbit's spirit interrupted, accusing her of twisting the story to suit herself. He said he would summarize the truth fairly. The 12 Zodiac tournament, he explained, was a sacred competition meant to determine the order of the 12 animal gods who protect the heavenly realm. Nina snapped, saying she had already mentioned that. Ignoring her, the rabbit's spirit continued. The chosen judge, bearing the jewel, the necklace Wuju's mother had given him, was responsible for finding the 12 divine spirits who had descended from the heavens to earth and making them join the tournament. The judge had 100 days to restart the contest. Wuju asked why the rabbit had possessed Rabin's body. The spirit explained that unlike ancient times, when the divine beings could descend freely, the mortal and heavenly realms were now separated. To interact with the human world, they needed hosts. Wuju repeated the word hosts, trying to understand. The rabbit's spirit nodded, explaining that the 12 divine spirits no longer participated directly. Instead, they granted their powers to chosen humans who would compete on their behalf. Raven let out a scream as the spirit flickered inside her again, transforming her briefly into a humanoid rabbit. She begged him to stop, yelling for him to come out already. The spirit said that when they descended, they sometimes lost control, just as he had before. It was a side effect of having two souls share one body. Wuju realized what that meant. Wuju asked the animal spirit if that meant there would be 11 more people experiencing the same strange phenomena as Raven. Nina cut in to confirm that was pretty much the case. Wuju clutched his head in confusion, wondering how he was supposed to convince people he didn't even know to join the tournament. The rabbit spirit replied that they wouldn't be complete strangers. The hosts chosen by the Zodiac gods would be people who had even the slightest connection to the judge. That was likely why Raven, who had a strong connection with Wuju, had been possessed first. Wuju stared and repeated the words "connection with me," then mentally scanned his life. Besides Raven, who else was around him? He pictured the woman from the school cafeteria. The mere thought that she might be chosen gave him chills. He then realized something and asked what would happen if the judge couldn't continue the tournament, if he failed to find participants, or if 100 days passed. Nina answered that in that case, the divine spirits wouldn't be able to return to the heavenly realm, and the host would be completely taken over by the Zodiac god. Terrified, Raven asked if that applied to her too. The rabbit spirit explained, more carefully since she seemed overwhelmed, that she and he were already separated enough that she wouldn't be fully taken over, but they would have to live together forever. Devastated, Raven repeated the word forever, and the rabbit spirit snapped that he didn't want that either. Wuju looked like he might faint, thinking that the lives of 12 people were now in his hands. Nina leaned on his shoulder and said that was exactly why he had to continue the tournament no matter what. Then she squished his cheeks and added that he just needed to stick close to her. Exhausted, Raven asked why she had to go through any of this. Wuju, rubbing his temples, admitted he didn't know. The rabbit spirit cut in to say the obvious. This was happening because the cat had restarted the tournament. Nina grabbed him to shut him up, drawing close with a dark grin and asking how he could say that. She squeezed him mercilessly. The rabbit spirit asked if she really thought she could hide it. Sitting on the bed, Raven asked what the rules of the tournament were, and whether the cat was hiding those as well. Nina, flustered, snapped back at her, but the rabbit spirit answered that the judge was the one who decided the rules, and this particular judge didn't even remember them right now. Wuju stood there, holding his head, feeling like the rules were on the tip of his tongue, but just out of reach. He remembered falling from the 4th floor, and then his thought cut off as the rabbit spirit interrupted to say it would be fine. They could figure it out. The spirit floated to Wuju and tapped his chest. A green glow began to spread. Wuju stared, confused. Nina, annoyed, said she had been about to do that herself. She rushed to him and tore open his shirt to reveal a glowing symbol on his chest. Raven, covering her eyes, asked what it even was. The rabbit spirit told her to look closely. For now, the The symbol only had rabbit at the top. If Wuju managed to recruit all the animals and fill in the blanks, he would learn the rules. However, if he failed to gather them within 100 days and the game went unfinished, the judge would die. Wuju and Raven were stunned by that information. Nina just smirked. Wuju shouted in disbelief. Later, once emotions had settled, he buttoned his shirt and asked Nina if they should hurry and find the hosts. She smiled and said precisely. Raven then asked Nina why she had restarted the tournament in the first place. Nina suddenly looked sad and couldn't answer. The rabbit spirit stepped in and said it was probably for a wish. The winner of the tournament could make one wish. Wuju and Raven stared, confused, asking if he meant a real wish. Nina quickly diverted them from that line of thinking. She cuddled up to Raven and said that was something to worry about after the tournament started. Then she pushed Raven out of Wuju's room and told them for now to focus on finding the hosts, declaring the meeting dismissed. Raven bent to put on her shoes, then paused and asked Nina if she planned to stay there. Nina answered that there was nowhere else for her to go. Raven told her to stay anywhere else, saying that a grown man and woman alone together was just. Nina cut her off, asking if she was jealous, and announced she wouldn't bite, tugging Wuju by the collar. Embarrassed, Raven practically hit the ceiling and stormed out, shouting that it wasn't like that. A few seconds later, she opened the door again, tossed some of her clothes inside, and yelled in frustration that Nina should at least wear those. Nina looked at the clothes and said out loud that they weren't her style. While she changed behind Wuju, he asked if she was seriously planning to stay at his place. Nina replied that she had nowhere to go and that he had to take responsibility. She grabbed his shirt and added that she was hungry, looking absolutely gorgeous. She's so fine. Wuju started preparing food for himself and simply poured milk into a bowl for her. Nina even ate like a cat, on all fours, drinking from a bowl. Wuju slurped his noodles, watched her, and thought that on the inside she was still a cat, though on the outside she looked like a normal girl. Nina, relieved, declared she was stuffed, then asked why the milk was so cold. Wuju, cleaning the counter and worn out from the day, told her it was because it came from the fridge. Nina tilted her head and asked what a fridge was. Wuju asked if she seriously didn't know. Sitting on the floor, she said they hadn't had things like that 3,000 years ago. He asked how she had managed all this time. Curled on the floor, she explained that she had been waiting in a long sleep. When she woke up, the world had changed so much. She wanted to eat fish, but couldn't even find a fish market, and wondered where all the sparrows had gone. Maybe she should look for a mill? Wuju told her those things were no longer around. Too much time had passed. Sitting on the floor, confused, she said it felt like she had fallen into a completely different world. Wuju thought for a moment and asked how she had bought that ice cream earlier. Nina answered that she had simply found a box that smelled like milk and took it. Wuju yelled that she had basically stolen it. She said she hadn't known what else to do. Nina suddenly looked very sad and lost. Stressed, Wuju said he would go for a walk and asked if she wanted to come. Nina's eyes immediately brightened. He added that if she didn't want to, he could go alone. She ran to him, grabbed his hands, and happily said she would come. They wandered the city at night. Nina stepped as if she were touching the ground for the first time. A stray cat hissed at her. Since she was technically a cat, she assumed a defensive posture and hissed back, and Wuju tried to stop her. Later, they stopped at a vending machine. Nina stared at it like it was from another planet and even punched it to see if something would happen. Wuju bought her a drink, and soon they were on a rooftop where she sipped it happily. After that, they went to a convenience store where he explained how to buy things and asked her not to steal next time. He playfully dabbed a bit of ice cream on her cheek. Nina let out a loud meow and licked it off, her eyes lighting up as she insisted it was delicious. Wuju awkwardly fed her more ice cream. Thinking that up close, she really did seem like a normal girl. Suddenly, some random couple walked into the store. Wuju pulled Nina aside to hide. The strangers, seeing no one at the counter, assumed the place was empty and started getting cozy, about to kiss. Wuju pulled a hat over Nina's head, and before things escalated, they rushed out, apologizing to the couple as they fled. Back at Wuju's place, both out of breath, he said they should wrap up the walk for the night. Nina asked why they had suddenly run away. He apologized. She complained that now she was all dirty. Wuju told her she should wash up. She immediately began licking her skin and cleaning herself exactly like a cat. Wuju shouted at Nina, demanding to know what she was doing, then pushed her straight toward the bathroom, telling her to wash properly, with water. Nina clung to the doorframe, refusing to go in, yelling that no way was she getting her fur wet. Cats, she said, were meant to clean themselves that way. Wuju reminded her that she was in her human form now and asked where this fur she kept talking about even was. He grabbed the shower head, handed it to her, and told her to use it after turning on the water. Nina started undressing right in front of him, which left Wuju completely flustered. Imagine, I can't describe how much I hate this dude. He bolted out of the bathroom, pressing a hand to his chest and asking himself what this weird feeling was. He should be worried about something else, honestly. Then he remembered the bathroom door was broken and wouldn't close. He panicked, realizing he needed to warn her. Just as he rushed back, he accidentally got a full view of Nina showering. Bro froze on the spot, completely stunned. Later, Nina came out of the bathroom, saying the warm water had felt amazing. She was wearing some oversized clothes. Goddamn. Look at her, Wuju, you lucky bastard. She spotted Wuju leaning into the open fridge and asked if he really loved that thing called a fridge so much. In truth, Wuju was just trying to cool off after what he'd just seen. He jumped in the shower right after, smacking his head and telling himself to get a grip. That was a cat, a 3,000-year-old divine spirit cat at that. After his bath, he changed clothes, sighed, and went to his room, where he found Nina already lying on his bed, half asleep. He asked if she wasn't going to turn off the light. Seeing her comfortably settled in his bed, he started making himself a spot on the floor with extra blankets and a pillow he found around the house. Nina asked what he was doing. Wuju replied that he was getting ready to sleep. He found the floor comfortable enough, so he'd just sleep there. Nina told him not to bother and suggested they sleep together like last night. Wuju shouted in disbelief, asking together. He tried to explain that it would look bad and was completely inappropriate. At that exact moment, Nina transformed into her cat form and jumped into his arms. Wuju finally realized she'd meant sleeping together as in, her curling up beside him as a cat. He got a flashback of the bathroom scene and sighed, telling her she thought this suddenly made it all better. Nina purred calmly, saying a human's arms were so warm. Wuju lay down in his bed while Nina, in cat form, nestled comfortably beneath his blanket. Just like that, our boy drifted off to sleep. The next morning, Wuju barely opened his eyes, wondering when he'd even fallen asleep, and then realized he had a full view of Nina's arguments. He screamed loud enough for the entire neighborhood to hear. Panicking, he jumped out of bed. A sleepy Nina opened her eyes, asking if he was already up. He muttered that he had to go to school. Nina asked if school was like a learning hall. Wuju replied, "Exactly." Hearing that, Nina suddenly got a brilliant idea. She wanted to go to school too. Wuju froze mid-step at the thought. He imagined her running around the school while his classmates stared in confusion, wondering who that strange girl was. He told her absolutely not. Meanwhile, Raven stood outside his door, tapping her foot and wondering why he was taking so long. Wuju finally rushed out his room, out of breath. Raven smiled, happy to see him and ready to greet him, until Nina suddenly popped out behind him. Rabin's smile vanished into a glare, all jealousy written on her face. Nina said that since he insisted so much, she wouldn't follow him to school. Because of that, she said, he had to do well on his own. Wuju just muttered, "Got it." Nina waved cheerfully and told him that if anyone seemed even slightly suspicious, he should absolutely doubt them. He had to find the 12 Zodiacs and make them compete. Wuju, clearly annoyed, repeated, "Got it." He warned her to stay home this time and not wander around causing trouble like before, with her tail dangling everywhere. As he left, Nina transformed into a cat again and darted off, roaming outside on her own. At school, Wuju thought seriously about how he was supposed to find the other Zodiacs. He didn't even know that many people, and none of them seemed strange like Raven. He decided to focus on surviving the day first. When he entered class, he overheard students wondering why so many seats were empty. "I don't know," one said. "None of the bullies showed up. It's kind of peaceful." The teacher walked in and told everyone to sit down. He mentioned that many students were missing today, and to get to the point, they were all hospitalized. Someone asked if they'd gotten into a motorcycle accident or something. The teacher snapped for silence, saying she was still assessing the situation and that they shouldn't spread rumors or cause panic. Class began. Wooju sat quietly, thinking how peaceful everything felt, that this must be what school was like on normal days. Then he remembered he needed to return the overdue library books. At the library, he sighed in contentment, thinking that if school were always this quiet, he'd have no complaints. As he handed over his books, his fingers brushed against the librarians. Both froze, startled. Wooju quickly apologized for the accident, and the girl said she should be the one apologizing. She noticed his notebook had a rabbit doodle on it. She thought it was cute. She smiled and said she knew he liked animals. Wooju blinked, surprised, and she added that he was always in the biology and natural sciences section, so she'd noticed. Wooju felt embarrassed and thought to himself that if he'd known, he'd have picked more impressive books to read. After an awkward silence, the girl said that if he'd returned everything, he could go. Wooju practically bolted out of the library, shouting a rushed goodbye, then ran down the hall, thinking about how embarrassing that had been. Suddenly, he bumped right into Raven. Both clutched their heads in pain. Wooju apologized immediately. Raven scolded him for not watching where he was going. He apologized again, but she quickly changed the topic, asking if he had found any suspicious people. Wooju said not yet. She sighed, disappointed, grabbed his hand, and said he was hopeless. Raven told him she needed to check whether he was actually doing his job or not. Wooju, confused, asked where they were going. Later, at the schoolyard, Raven thought out loud that since divine spirits descended into humans, they should first check where lots of people were gathered. Wooju agreed, praising her cleverness. Raven smirked and asked if he was just someone who didn't think things through. Wooju said she didn't have to phrase it like that. As they walked, Wooju asked if she remembered the time she fell and cried during sports day. Raven asked where she ever did that, telling him to stop remembering unnecessary things. Wooju said he'd thought she looked cute back then. Raven, annoyed, snapped that she was still cute. Then she mentioned something else, that among those connected to him at school, there were bullies too. Wooju's heart stopped for a second. He admitted that was true. He suddenly looked pale, and Raven asked if he was okay. He said he was fine and that he'd just go to the infirmary for a moment. After he left, Raven stood alone. Behind her, a few students were chatting. Curious, she peeked at them from behind a wall. They were talking about their missing classmates, speculating that someone had beaten them up, and that's why they were all in the hospital. Suddenly, one of the guys in the group was sent flying right past Raven, who had only been trying to overhear. She turned and saw the same girl from the library, the librarian, walking out with a powerful, intimidating aura surrounding her. If you made it to the end, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me a lot. Sorry for not posting anything lately. I got an ear infection and was stuck in bed for a whole month. Have a great day.